Shangri-La is probably one of the hardest places to truly understand. The city at the edge of Tibetan Plateau, named after a fictional utopia, is one of the most popular tourist destinations in China. But we wanted to see what's beyond the souvenir shops and tourist attractions.
So we entered people's homes and got hands-on with Tibetan culture. Somehow that led us face to face with a Geshe, the highest academic title in Tibetan Buddhism. Someone who taught us to see life in a completely different way. Stick till the end because he has a message for you too.
The gorgeous landscape on the way to Shangri-La is a constant reminder that you are climbing to the roof of the world at over 3,000 meters of altitude. We made our first stop at a rural Tibetan village nested deep in the snow mountain range. We slept at a local homestay and discovered a tradition that most outsiders have never heard of.
The homes here are huge. Never seen houses so big, especially in minority village and places, and also they're very tall. These big giant squares in the middle of the village. Those are all the rooms. That's the courtyard, and there's this traditional weaving machine, I guess, or station. And then behind here there's a courtyard. That's the owner's house. Living room, a main hall.
It feels like a temple here.
Does it?
Yeah.
Traditional bags, so furry, silver leather and fur. It's an interesting little altar with a monk or a lama and Buddha and the Mao. I don't know what that is for. Maybe for doing the traditional Tibetan tea, the salty buttery tea. That's where they gather and have the meals and dinner. When we're gonna have dinner, it's this giant furnace stove where they also heat up water for tea.
This is the biggest furnace I've seen.
Yeah, even from this distance I can feel the heat. I love the decor. Like that's the palace in Lhasa. Yeah, Potala Palace.
Dinner was some simple but delicious noodles and stir fry, but what was awaiting us in the morning was a completely different story.
This is the highland barley. Around here, only this grows and potato grows. Nothing else really grows here.
So you add barley to the tea?
Yeah, it's a powder. So it's a starch. Oh, it's toasted. It smells so good.
So that's the typical Tibetan tea. It's very milky and very salty. It's basically yak butter with a bit of tea.
Yeah.
And because of the high altitude, etc., the diet here is very fat.
She didn't put a lot of butter for us because it would be too greasy, This looks pretty waterish, but... Turns out we got Tibetan tea completely wrong. Later on, we will see how to make it properly.
She also gave us this compacted kind of cheese and the Tibetan bread.
Yeah, this is also made from the barley.
This is delicious. I love it.
I just had a piece of this cheese without the sugar. Because I was like, why do you put sugar on top? It's really sour.
Oh.
And sour, in a way, it gets bitter. This is not cheese. This is the yak milk. I think they beat it and then they solidified. They took that solid and compressed them. So it's kind of wet.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think it's fermented. This tea is really salty.
While we're having breakfast, we can talk a little bit about last night, because we had the chance to speak to our host a little bit, to chat with her. Since they have all these pictures of Potala Palace in Lhasa, my first instinct was to ask her if she's been. She's like, I was there. She has to speak Mandarin with the people there. They dress differently. She didn't like the food. She said it's too greasy. There are three main subgroups of Tibetan. U-tsang live there in Lhasa. Kampa or Kam that live here in Yunnan and Sichuan. They were other stretch of what was the Tibetan Empire in the 7th century. Historically, they were bandits, warriors, riding horses, bareback. Like they're very, very tough and very strongly independent people.
What she mentioned mainly is the women's right equality. Women also work outside, but still they have to do everything around the house, all the chores. And the men, they do nothing. They only sit. The village people would laugh at them or, talk jokes like, oh, you did this for your wife or girlfriend.
Wow, that's insane.
So it would repel them to do more. She's really looking forward to some modern approach, right? Equality, and people also go to school, can go to college and work a regular job and not staying here and, work in the field.
I think a bit like when we visited the Olukuya in Inner Mongolia, you have this fascination for these minorities, like, but they're just normal people who want a better life.
Better life, yeah. I feel like stupid asking certain questions because like you realize they are just like you, like everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, they appreciate comfort in life, right? Because she was like, when she was younger, life was extremely difficult. The only thing is like farming. With the modernization, you know, the machines coming in, so they don't have to harvest everything with hands. Life gets more comfortable. She got her driver's license. She started to drive tourists around.
Here, the harsh environment is more than a backdrop. This peaceful nature shapes the way people think, the way they see life and death. In this valley, when someone passes, is returned to nature in a way that in the West we would find deeply uncomfortable. Something they do still in this village, in rivers and lakes, and is the water burial. Some of you might know the sky burial, where Tibetans feed corpses to vultures, but there's also water burial.
They just leave the body in the river. Usually, you know, when summertime, when the water level is high, they will just flow to a different place.
Because the body becomes an empty vessel when you die. So they're like, oh, the one last thing you can do is act of generosity towards other beings is use this flesh to feed the fish. The more traditional people refuse to eat fish because they're like, what if this fish ate someone? And there's a specialized person whose role is to break up the body, like a kind of like human butcher, and make it easy for the fish to eat sometimes also. Some rituals have it, some rituals don't. It's an interesting, different way to look at death that we have when we try to preserve or make things pretty. Here it's more like, now it's food for fish.
Yeah, that's also one thing I'm super curious about. I want to learn more on this trip.
Yeah, let's see.
You know, the point of view about life and death.
Time to swap these peaceful lands and fields for the busy streets of the town. The ancient town center of Shangri-la is called Dukezong, and this place is touristic. There's no getting around it. But if you look past the souvenir shops and focus on the woodwork, the architecture, the detail, and the exquisite Tibetan handicrafts, you realize that this place is like nowhere else in China. And then there's the food, which is where the difference hits you the most. Here, almost every item in every menu traces back to one single animal, the yak.
Locals sometimes also come to the ancient town side streets and sell this homemade yak yogurt. Come out solid with a little bit of liquid.
So you're like super... Oh! Sour?
Oh my god!
Too sour?
Yeah. And it's not very smooth. So you have this granule texture. It's extreme sour, hit you with the aftertaste and slight bitterness.
The consistency and the smell alone, scary.
I'm sure it's healthy.
Whoa! Holy! Whoa! It's like yogurt on steroid. It's so sour. It gives you the same... You know when you eat a lemon, like your mouth just like all dries up and you get like, oh my god, ooh, super sour. I'm not gonna have more of this. But if you add
the most healthy yogurt in the world.
Yeah, but if you add milk, if you add sugar, maybe a bit of milk, maybe a bit of berries, it could be really good. But like this hardcore raw dogging the yogurt,
that's why local people eat it with sugar though. They don't eat it like that. I just want you to try.
Wow, so sour.
But if you come here and can only try one thing, this is what you should get. On the menu, there's no other kind of meat. It's only yak meat.
Yeah.
And our friend doesn't really eat beef and stuff, so she wanted to have some eggs or some chicken, and they don't have. So they were like, okay, you can order some takeaways from other eateries. The hot pot is amazing. The meat is very tender. It's a very thin slice. The sauce, it looks spicy, but it's not. It feels like a regular hot pot sauce. There's no strange flavor. It tastes, I think, more like a beef.
For us, the highlight was seeing locals and visitors gather every night to dance together in the main square. And then a few streets away we saw a pilgrim prostrating all the way from here to Mount Kailash. traveling thousands of kilometers, one body length at a time, to accrue good karma. If that's how devotion looks like on the streets, we were really curious to see how does it look like in one of the most important monasteries in the region.
This place is actually renamed to Shangri-la in 2001. Before, it is called Zhongdian. And in order to boost tourism, they renamed this place and they expand the ancient town, which is the Dukezong ancient town. But unfortunately, there was a fire in 2014, so they have to reconstruct more than half of the town.
Yeah, so a lot of the buildings you see in Shangri-La are actually 9 years old, even in the old town. This building is not. This is one of the main landmarks that we absolutely cannot miss if you come to this tiny corner of Yunnan. And that is the Songzanlin Monastery that was founded in 1679 by an order of the 5th Dalai Lama, who had the vision to build a big monastery here. And it was a great vision because it's on top of a hill. It overlooks a gorgeous landscape. And this building is just incredible. It's a huge complex. There are 3 main halls. The architecture, everything is so different. It's so dreamy. Like right now we have all these crows flying over it. And you see them from far away. You see this giant structure on a cliff with all these crows hovering. And it's like almost feels like a movie. And videos and photos really does not make justice.
Yeah, the photos doesn't really look good, but in person it looks more majestic. So apart from the temples, this is also a village because it's a huge territory.
Over 700 Tibetan monks live here when there is celebrations in the main halls and chanting. Up to 1,500 to 2,000 monks gather together and chant at the same time. So that must be an incredible thing to witness. This place just really gives you goosebumps.
Tibetan Buddhism is much more complex than we thought. It is a religion with a complete philosophical system that requires decades of academic studies, debates, and scholarship.
Songzanlin Monastery is considered the Harvard of Tibetan Buddhism, a place where the most serious minds come to study. Somewhere inside this monastery was a man that had reached the highest academic title that Tibetan Buddhism has to offer, a Geshe. We had no idea at the time that later we'd end up sitting in his living room.
But devotion here doesn't stop at the monastery gates. The further we walked from Songzanlin, the more we realized that entire land is a place of worship.
Buddhist Tibetan areas, it's very common to see structures like this, full of these flags. They're called longda, and each flag represents a prayer or a wish, and they're in different colors, and the colors need to be in a specific order, symbolizing the sky, the clouds, the fire, the rivers, and the earth.
Every time the wind blows, it's like citing the scripture one, spreading the prayers. That's also why it appears all the time on high position, like on top of a mountain. And they have to leave them there until all the flags, they're just gone. Yeah, and then they renew it. There's a lot of this stone piles. They're basically called mani piles. So they put them like this in pagoda shape and put scriptures on top. And, it's represents something holy. And it's very common, seeing this in the Tibetan villages.
So these are the mani barrels. This is where they also put scriptures as chanting, mantras, etc. Because in Tibetan Buddhism, one of the main beliefs is if you chant certain mantras a lot, it will help you to be liberated, to escape samsara, reach enlightenment. And to add more opportunities to recite mantra, they came up with this system where they would put the scripture on these barrels. And basically every turn of the barrel would be chanting several mantras. And in this in particular, these are called mani barrels, and they put 6 different scriptures, 6 different chants. This very old one made with leather.
This part of the world is culturally and spiritually rich, but we felt like we'd only scratched the surface. So we did something we'd never done before and booked a guided tour. China Explorer Tour promised us deep access into Tibetan culture and local life. We were so excited because this one was going to open doors that we would have never found on our own. The package included food and accommodation, and the first meal already topped all the other ones we had in Shangri-La.
There's always a meat dish on the Tibetan table because there's not a lot of other resources. Eating meat is like the center of the diet to give them enough like nutrients. And even the monk here, they all eat meat. There's no dietary restrictions on meat eating.
These little mushrooms that we usually find them in the hot pot in Dahlia, but here they prepared with, I think, yak butter. They are delicious. They're like so meaty and they have so flavorful. Because the butter really brings out the flavor of the mushroom. It has this smokiness also a little bit, this like earthy flavor. Fantastic. And look at this big piece of meat.
They have a special pig here. It's called Tibetan pig. This is the one.
Tibetan pig.
And they're kind of like black color.
This meat is delicious.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
First activity was a few steps away from Shangri-La's most iconic landmark, the Inner Harmony Stupa, white stupa of Shangri-La, and it's the biggest, tallest white stupa in the world. It's 108 meters and the base it's almost 5,000 square meters. Inside you have a little folk museum explaining, the culture and customs of the local Kampa Tibetans of Shangri-La. And not too far away, there's a very special place that we're about to enter.
So we're going to a big family business, like from the local Tibetans. They are like they make incense, like the Tibetan incense, like made by hand using the local herbs and some traditional medicine. So they have the best Tanka collection in there.
Tanka painting. It's a very special form of Tibetan religious painting, which is it's not just art. Every line, every proportion, every little detail, even sometimes the way you hold the brush, it's symbolic and it follows some religious, spiritual rules.
We know that Tibetans, they're nomadic people, right? So they have to move around a lot. And before, they have to carry the statue, but it's impractical. And you would likely to damage the statue, and that's a form of disrespect. So they discovered, if you put it in painting, you can easily move around with it and, preserve it well. So this is also called moving temple. So with this in the house, you have the Buddha in your house. All the Tanka paintings are made with pure mineral colors, and they would grind those stones into fine powders and stew it with cow bone. And so afterwards, they would put it on painting so it would have a lasting effect. This one is the most expensive painting here, and it's made with pure lapis and azurite. And this red color is from coral. So the different colors, they would use different stones, right? The red would be coming from coral, the yellow would be coming from either gold or beeswax, and there's a lot of precious stone are used in the paintings. That's also why like a real Tanka painting is really costly. The Tanka painting is also made by people who have learned from a special book, because in that book, it explains different Buddha, even how many bones they have, like, the whole physiology of the Buddha. After you paint every stroke, you're supposed to chant some mantra. So like it takes a really long time to complete one painting.
This is an old Tibetan practice. It takes ages to complete this one painting. Monks doing usually in monastery. It's very intricate, very, very complicated, very minute work. You need a lot of concentration and a lot of time, a lot of effort goes into it. But the point of it is that once it's finished, you just erase it immediately. As a reminder for the monks that no matter how much effort you put into something, how much you get attached to something, you think you earned it, you deserved it, you always have to remember everything is impermanent and you shouldn't get attached to anything, even if it takes you so long and so much effort. And it's a beautiful message, and seeing this live, it's pretty cool. And especially in this gallery, this is the most beautiful Tanka paintings gallery I have seen.
It was time for us to get our hands dirty and try to make some Tibetan incense. This has been done here for hundreds of years and is more than just about the smell. Every ingredient carries a spiritual or medicinal purpose.
It smells incredible because there are over 20 medicinal plants and herbs that go.
Overall, there's 48 different kinds of herbs and elements, and 20 of them they can grow on the plateau, but the other 20 something, like, they have to source outside. There's different recipes for different usage. After using it for a while, they realize, sometimes I don't get cold anymore. And they realize there's also medicinal functions of this. So now they use different recipes for different medicinal use.
How to make a line is a bit more. Use a bit slightly more wet dough, and you stuff it into this horn thing. Really need to push.
Yeah. How do you feel about the product?
I feel like I'm really not skilled at this.
A monk from the Songzanlin Monastery went to Lhasa and brought the incense technique back to Shangri-la. Now it's like the 5th generation. He started when he was 8. So he went to the monastery and he learned techniques. And when he was 17, his master gave him 300 RMB and sent him on his way to travel and learn more stuff. So he went to different, like Yunnan province, he went to Nepal and Bhutan and, learned more techniques, and he came back and hosts this place. So here we just experienced, the cone shape and also the line incense. But now we're gonna move into the Tanka room and learn some Tanka painting.
So here's my abomination. And here's Jay's masterpiece. Wow, so beautiful.
There's another tradition that has kept Tibetan Buddhism alive for centuries: printing, studying, and passing down sacred scriptures by hand. Not far from here sits a traditional block printing house, technically closed for renovation, but our guide made a phone call and suddenly we were surrounded by a treasure trove of sacred writing.
These are all the ancient scriptures. Wow.
These blocks are not only the Buddhist scriptures, there's also, science, the Tibetan traditional medicine. So it's not just for religious purpose. It's also, preserve a very old wisdom and pass them down. During the Cultural Revolution time and also during the Second World War, a lot of those things were destroyed. But this family, they hidden some of the blocks in the mountain and used butter to preserve them. And the local people, for thanking them, they donated all these blocks to their personal collection. So now these are private owned. The 2 most important original blocks in Tibetan culture preserved here.
The torch, but the second floor is where they do the Tanka paintings. See the various stages here, and this is amazing. But here on the second floor you see how the monks would hand copy and rewrite all the prayers and sutras. So dark in here.
But the best of this unforgettable day came later, when we were invited into a Tibetan home where we experienced true local hospitality.
He is the accountant of Songzanlin Monastery, and apparently he's the most handsome guy in Shangri-la.
Oh, let's go have a look at him.
谢谢你。In winter, is to keep the water warm the whole time. So they're like putting this. One of it's pet food. So whatever they use and don't want to consume anymore, they put it in the specific one for the livestock or pets. Yeah.
This house is incredible, and he's making tea for us. So he's showing us how to make Tibetan butter tea. Preparing some tea next to the fire. And here you put the...
That's the thing that you have to beat it.
Yeah.
Beat it! I told you, this place is hard. finally understand how to drink this butter tea. So you're supposed to put the baked barley powder, and then you use your hand to mix them.
So this is how you eat it. You just.
它是这样，你看4个手指。
Yes.
可以啊。I'm intimidated. He's too handsome. 太帅。
Why do they decorate the middle pillar? Because every house we go, the middle pillar always like kind of dress up, because it's kind of signify, it's supporting the whole house, right? The structure. So if they decorate it, meaning they only get better and better. In a Tibetan family, there are probably multiple brothers and sisters. It's always the oldest son or daughter would own the house basically, and the younger ones, they would marry and leave the house to start their own. A lot of details in the wood carvings. This is kind of a fixed thing in every Tibetan house. It's the 8 treasure. In every household, they would have bigger or smaller version of this. We have a homemade hot pot layers. At the bottom is the chicken they raise at home. Second layer is pork. Top layer is tofu with some vegetables, and it really tastes different. This is a typical Yunnan medicinal herb. It's called yuxingcao, fish grass. It tastes kind of like fishy, something that you either love it or hate it.
When we thought our journey had come to an end, there was a final surprise for us. Our friend Bing Yo, who's one of the coordinators of this tour, was so lovely to tell us to come here to Lijiang and drive 2 hours, because we had the opportunity to meet with a Tibetan Geshe. Geshe is the highest academic achievement in Tibetan Buddhism, and is the Geshe of Songzanlin, which is the Harvard of Tibetan Buddhism. So incredible amount of Tibetan Buddhist wisdom in this man, and just being in his presence was very, very strange, and like it's hard to explain. It was a bit trippy even, because he happens to have very long ears and the nose, and he has those similar features to the Buddha statues. So if you stare at him while he talks, sometimes it kind of looks like he's turning into a Buddha. It was like very trippy experience to meet with him, and it was amazing. He gave us some calligraphy blessings, and he showed us his workshop where he paints. But most importantly, we sat there for a long time asking him all sorts of questions. He had some incredible wisdom to share, and that completely changed, I would say, also our perspective on life.
He gave a really beautiful analogy why the ocean is so big, but because it's positioned low. Thanks to that humble position, like all the waters would flow into it. We also have a Chinese old saying, like if 3 people are walking on the street, there must be a teacher in there. So yeah, we basically can learn from anybody. Just be humble. Listening to the master, he talks about reincarnation as if it's a fact. I still don't believe it 100%. Like, I can't say I believe in it, but it's just like, it's like a trip for me. I've experienced like other people who believe it so deeply talk about it. It's like, it literally gave me new perspective. Every being on this world, for example, you see some strangers on the street. They could be your parents in their past life, and you could be theirs. Not just people, including animals and other beings. So this morning, for example, the people who serve us breakfast, it took me a few seconds thinking about it. And I was like, I gonna talk to them. I'm gonna be nice to them. And so we had the little conversation with them, and it felt really nice, because whoever in front of you, it's not what you just see. There's
much more.
Yeah, there's much more to them.
We asked him to share something with you, with our audience, with whoever is watching this video. So we're gonna leave you with that.
我们不管哪个人啊，就是不管有文化没有文化，有条件没有条件，所有的人都的追求的有一个目标是统一的，就是快乐。首先这个快乐呢，怎么来？人的一种生活里面，它就是一定要需要一种自由。也自由的了解、理解，什么呀叫自由？什么呀叫自由的品牌是什么呀？这个就是所有的人都就是要理解这个的话，那就慢慢的就是自然的每个人不同的得到了一种快乐。我们人都是其实想要快乐，但是快乐呢，我们就是放不下很多东西，追求的东西太多，欲望太多，所以欲望减少，欲望这个里面知足的话就是快乐。最后简单来讲的话，人要不管做什么，要知足，然后呢才有快乐。
好。
好吧？就这样。
好，谢谢师傅。
The salty Tibetan butter tea is absolute survival fuel up here on the plateau. But to reach Tibet, these precious green leaves had to survive one of the most dangerous and unforgiving trading routes in human history. On our next episode, we head south into the ancient mist-covered mountain of Por to uncover the true origins of tea and retrace the legendary trade route that changed the world.